Natasha,
Debbie,
show.
the show.
Welcome to it. Just two patriotic girls.
Learning about the world.
So please, don't take us the wrong way. Hi, we're live.
We're here. And we're so glad that you're here. Welcome
Are
to
you
the
here?
Natasha and Debbie show.
We only know if you're here if, one, you hit the like button. That shows us you're here and that you care. And you consider subscribing to the channel. It's free. Done. Did that. That thing's over with. Oh, yes.
Done and out of the way.
So
we're starting out this year taking a look at a lot of different things that we haven't seen before, obviously, because that would be boring if we did the same thing over and over, wouldn't it? So today we're going to
I thought we were going to react to things we already knew about.
That'd be fun if we reacted to our own reactions.
We did that once, Debbie.
We did once, but I meant like on a regular basis.
I'd like to introduce you to the Natasha and Debbie show, featuring yourself. No, seriously, this is gonna be an epically cool episode, we think. So went on Facebook Live and asked friends over there, should we do this one? Because I wasn't sure about the title. Now y'all know, if you've watched us before, and if you haven't, go back, check some stuff out. We think you might like it. And if not, then there's over 80,000 people that really just didn't know what they did when they hit the subscribe button. Today's episode is called, Which Commonwealth Force Did the British Love and Value the Most?
We're not sure, so we're going to have to watch this video to find out, to make sure, so that we get an idea what they were thinking, what they were feeling.
Yeah, again, we love all our allied militaries. We love, of course, the U.S. military. We love the British military. We love the Canadian military. We love the Australian, the New Zealand. I'm going to forget a bunch of places. You know what I mean? There's a lot of them. And I'm very curious to see what this video is going to talk about, how they're going to go through this. Now, one thing we learned, we spent almost a whole year doing stuff on Australia. We're just now starting into learning about New Zealand.
We are.
And, and I know a tiny bit about what Canada's done too. These countries like New Zealand and Australia, Canada, really don't get the credit that they deserve in the wars.
Absolutely.
They just don't. So I'm really hoping this video will cover some of that too. But we found this title to be very intriguing, and hopefully you will as well. So without any further ado, let's find out which Commonwealth force did the British love and value the most.
Many claim that Britain stood alone against Nazi Germany in the early parts of World War II after the fall of France. Geographically, that may have been true, but in 1939, the British Empire comprised 25% of the global population and 20% of the landmass. Almost every Commonwealth country contributed to the war effort, whether they deployed small numbers of men from the Caribbean or huge amounts of supplies and natural resources from Canada and India. The British were hardly alone.
Agreed.
While many of those countries have since gained independence, there's no denying the impact they had on British fighting power. It would be impossible to cover all the British-controlled nations during the war, as there were upwards of 75. Instead, we'll look at the biggest contributors to answer the question, which of these countries did the British love the most? Australia, ever loyal, declared war on Germany the same day as Britain, the 3rd of September 1939. Despite a good start though, the relationship between Britain and Australia during the war was rocky at best.
Didn't know that.
From the moment the Australians arrived in Europe, they became a vital part of the war effort. In the early days in the Mediterranean, the Scrap Iron Flotilla, commanded by Captain Hector Waller, proved to be hugely important. Among other things, the unit kept communication between Allied forces safe by escorting ships between ports and patrolled the sea for mines and other obstacles as well. In 1941, more Australians, as part of the 6th, 7th and 9th Divisions, joined the Allied forces in the Mediterranean and North African campaigns. While the Australians struggled in the ill-fated Crete and Greece campaigns, they were valuable fighters in Egypt and Libya, capturing Tobruk and Benghazi during Operation Compass between late 1940 and early 1941.
He keeps saying they're valuable. First and foremost, every soldier fighting was valuable.
Yes.
Okay, let's just make that an duh moment. Duh. Yeah, they're soldiers. They fought. They're valuable.
Yes. Every effort put out there was worth
Yes.
it, was needed, was valued.
Thank you. And not just soldiers, those that were not maybe able to enlist, maybe unable to help in that way, but
Correct.
that did things behind the scenes. You know, there's a million things. There's so many women that were, nurses and things, but also
I stepped up into manufacturing and did all that stuff. And then there still had to be soldiers at home
exactly.
that stayed in country and did a lot of the legwork there, the recruiting, the training, the prepping.
And your everyday human and everyday person.
Yes.
That was doing a lot of things for the war effort. So let's just say that now. And I cannot believe I forgot to say this. Anyone watching who is an active serviceman or woman and veteran, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
All Allied military.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Ghazi during Operation Compass between late 1940 and early 1941. Trouble began after Japan entered the war.
Yeah.
Immediately, the 6th and 7th Divisions were recalled home to Australia.
Oh, really?
The 9th Division remained in North Africa and fought in the decisive Allied victory at El Alamein in October 1942, before also being recalled to protect the homeland.
Right.
Prime Minister Winston Churchill stuck with a Germany first strategy.
And we did that video on the bombing of Darwin
Uh-huh.
a while back, and that was intense.
That was very intense.
That was intense. Very much a similar story to Pearl Harbor in a lot of ways. So go back and take a look at that if you didn't know, because we sure as heck did not know. It was very informative. So a lot going on.
Protect the homeland. Prime Minister Winston Churchill stuck with a Germany first strategy, believing that the Allies must stop Germany before all else. With the Australians leaving to defend the Pacific, Churchill viewed this as a betrayal, and tensions between Churchill and Australian Prime Minister John Curtin spiked.
Interesting.
Like the Aussies...
No, but hold on. Let's just take a minute for that. I don't know anything about Churchill in that moment. So I guess I could try to see in his side of it, like, okay, yeah, you're supposed to be here helping us. But however, like, their own country kind of matters.
Yeah, you gotta protect their area too.
I mean, again, I don't have the extra context behind all of that, so I would not see that in the way he did. But again, I mean, hindsight too. But yeah, I wouldn't fault them at all for going back to protect their own land. Okay, we're going to New Zealand.
And Australian Prime Minister John Curtin spiked. Like the Aussies, the Kiwis declared war on Germany on the 3rd of September 1939. However, being a much smaller country, their manpower contribution to the war effort, both in Europe and the Pacific, was smaller.
So?
The 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force served overseas and provided a large contribution in the North African campaign. The 2nd New Zealand Expeditionary Force contributed to decisive victories in the Siege of Tobruk and the 1st and 2nd battles of El Alamein.
Okay.
Unlike the Aussies, the Kiwis continued fighting in North Africa until the Axis surrendered in Tunisia in May 1943. This included the 28th Māori Battalion, famed for their fierce determination in warfare. It's said that even German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel admired the Māori for their voraciousness in battle.
Really? Okay, that's cool. And we heard just a little bit about that in a previous video. I can't remember exactly which one that was. But, okay.
Yeah, we had heard about how rough and tough and
they
fearless.
Were. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm not surprised, but that's interesting.
Even German Field Marshal Erwin Rommel admired the Māori for their voraciousness in battle. Despite the war raging in the Pacific in which the 29th Battalion fought, most New Zealand troops headed toward the invasion of Sicily and the Italian peninsula after they left North Africa. In the end, New Zealand suffered more casualties, proportionally, than any other Commonwealth nation.
I remember hearing that.
Nearly 12,000 Kiwis died, which to a population of only 1.6 million was a significant blow.
God rest their souls.
However, because they were willing to remain in Europe, they did not receive the same cold shoulder from Churchill that the Aussies did.
It's still kind of unfair.
Unlike Australia and New Zealand, South Africa didn't declare war on Germany until the 6th of September 1939.
Okay.
This came after an intense debate in the South African parliament, with the pro-war faction ultimately ousting former Boer General JBM Hertzog as Prime Minister. General Jan Smuts, a pro-Britain and pro-war leader, took his place. After South Africa's declaration, they immediately sent troops to the North and East African front. However, because of the apartheid policies in South Africa, they did not allow coloured men to enlist in infantry positions or serve on the front lines. As a result, the South African army contributed far fewer men to the front lines than other Commonwealth nations. The army was deployed to East Africa, where South Africans found success in the Battle of Gondar and El Wak. However, once they moved northward, they struggled. For one, the South African army required additional training before Operation Crusader, which delayed British-led operations. For another, during the Battle of Gazala in 1942, the South Africans, led by Major General Hendrik Klooper, were largely blamed for the Allies losing the port of Tobruk, despite a British court inquiry ruling otherwise.
Interesting.
This caused tensions between the British and the South African soldiers for the rest of the war.
Okay.
While tensions were high on the battlefield, General Jan Smuts was a favourite of Prime Minister Churchill. He was considered one of Churchill's closest confidants, with Churchill's private secretary, Jock Colville, proclaiming there were very few of Churchill's colleagues in the British government whose words carried the same weights as Smuts. Churchill definitely loved General Smuts more than any other Commonwealth leader, but the South Africans themselves contributed little overall, and the rifts that formed between the men on the battlefield didn't earn them any love among the Brits.
It rubs me the wrong way every time he says that. Like,
Yeah.
I understand why he's saying it, like, in this,
in that context.
per war, right?
Right.
But I'm like, no, I'm sorry. Going back to what I said, every single person that was there, and
Absolutely.
it's a monstrous contribution to put your life on the line, whether you're
Mhm.
drafted or not.
Yes. Every life mattered.
Yeah. So I get why he's saying it, and I
Mhm.
understand, but still, don't like it. I'm learning a lot in this episode. Let us know if you are too. Whew, where are we going?
Like South
I had a
Africa,
feeling.
Canada didn't immediately declare war on Germany, instead waiting until the 10th of September 1939 after a vote in Parliament. While the number of Canadians initially sent to
That's
the
a
front
cool
lines
poster.
was small due to Canada's reluctance to conscript, Canada contributed in many other ways.
Yeah.
Canada played a huge role in the defense of the North Atlantic. During the Battle of the Atlantic, the longest continuous battle of the war, the Canadian Royal Navy ensured the safety of countless convoys sailing from North America to the UK and Soviet Union. These
Okay, that's
convoys
very
transported
important.
men, weapons, and goods that were vital to the Allied war effort. Additionally, Canada hosted and paid for the Commonwealth Air Training Plan, which trained airmen from several Commonwealth countries to fly in the Royal Air Force.
Whoa, hold on,
Wow.
really?
That's pretty impressive.
That's a big deal.
It is.
I didn't know that. Of course, I know a lot of this, but that is a huge deal. Okay, there's a lot coming out of this I did not expect.
Mhm.
In 1944, after the voluntary Canadian forces suffered heavy losses in Italy, Prime Minister William Mackenzie King began sending conscripts overseas.
Okay.
These Canadians played a pivotal role in the landing at Normandy, with the taking of Juno Beach, a hard-fought victory that paved the way to the liberation of Europe. Over 1.1 million Canadian men and women served in World War II.
Canada.
Wow.
I didn't know the number.
1.1 million.
I did not know the number.
That's very impressive.
I love when they actually show the women's faces. They
Yes.
never do that in these videos.
Exactly.
You never see the women behind World War II. Ever.
No, you don't.
I mean, it's very rare. Very rare.
Mhm.
But it's nice to see it once in a while to show
It
they
is.
were there. They did a lot.
Mm-hmm.
However, Canada's greatest contribution came from the direct and industrial aid it sent to Europe during the war.
I don't know what that is.
At a strategic location
missiles?
away from the front, Canadian factories and farms
Bombs,
provided
yeah.
machinery, arms, and food to Allied soldiers. In the end, over 800,000 military vehicles, 50,000 tanks, 348 merchant ships, and 1.7 million small arms were produced in Canada during the war.
I'm not surprised.
The nation even continued
That's crazy. I mean, you when you stop and think about everything that has to go into war, the machinery, the production of everything,
Mhm.
transporting it, to the other countries to get it there, to get it to the troops that need it. I mean, every step of it is super important.
Well, especially this far away.
Yes,
From
exactly.
North America all the way. Yeah, that's a
Uh-huh.
lot. You're absolutely right.
And somebody has to produce the stuff. So
Mhm.
that's amazing.
million small arms were produced in Canada during the war.
Crazy.
The nation even continued producing goods for the Allied forces after they could no longer afford it. Canada's total financial contribution
What?
is said to be around $10 billion, which would equal about $30 billion today.
Okay, wow.
Without this industrial boost, Britain would have run out of steam.
Yeah.
When the war broke out, Indians were divided on whether or not they should support Britain, much like South Africa. But because India was a colony as opposed to a dominion, these oppositions went largely unheard, and India soon declared war on Germany. During the war, India contributed 2.5 million men to the Allied war effort, all of them volunteers. 15% of all Victoria Crosses awarded during the war went to Indian and Nepalese soldiers. These men...
What? I don't know what button I hit. What just happened?
That's huge.
Really?
That is huge, and something I definitely didn't know. 15% of all the Victorian crosses.
So that's Gurkhas too, right then?
That's incredible.
That's crazy.
I'm so glad we're learning this.
This is an awesome video.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I hit a weird button, so I don't know what happened, but I think I got it back to the right place.
Victoria Crosses awarded during the war went to Indian and Nepalese soldiers.
Wow.
These men fought in North Africa, Western Europe, and in Southeast Asia, most notably in Burma. The former commander-in-chief of the British Indian Army, Field Marshal Sir Claude Auchinleck, stated that Britain couldn't have come through the war if they hadn't had the Indian Army. India provided more troops than any other Commonwealth nation and suffered heavy losses as a result. With the Japanese advancing rapidly through Southeast Asia, the British Indian Army held firm, preventing Japanese forces from entering India and eventually driving them out of Burma. Without Indian soldiers fighting on all these fronts, Britain would have been in much worse shape. However, love isn't the right word to describe how Britain felt about India.
What is?
Churchill, while recognizing the importance of the British Indian Army, did little to help India through its problems back at home. A famine in Bengal during the war killed nearly 3 million people, all while Britain continued to take food from India to fuel its war in Europe. This move drew a lot of criticism and bolstered anti-British sentiment in India. It's hard to say for certain which Commonwealth nation the British loved the most. While Churchill held the leaders of South Africa and New Zealand in high regard, their overall contributions to the war were rather small. Certainly India contributed the most men and helped win decisive battles in Europe and Asia. However, Canada provided not only men, but much needed weapons, vehicles, food, and direct financial aid too.
Not to mention, again, like you said, even when Britain couldn't afford it.
Yeah.
But
sent the supplies.
Even though we're in the conclusion aspect here, I just had to take a moment and say, none of the good guys would have won the war without all the good guys.
Without every other good guy.
Absolutely.
Yes. It took the team to make it work.
It absolutely did.
Yeah.
And yes, we know we came in later. We know that. We're not going into the politics and that. That's not what we're here about.
Exactly.
But all of us together won that war.
Yeah.
Every soldier, each and every person, women, factories, everyone doing their parts, people, whatever it may be. Everyone won that war together. And I will always say that. Sorry.
Not only men, but much needed weapons, vehicles, food, and direct financial aid too. Both India and Canada had significant impacts on the British war effort, and they were probably the two nations that deserve the most love. But the war could not have been fought and won without the sacrifices of countless other soldiers from Commonwealth nations.
Exactly.
But what do you think? Which Commonwealth nation did Britain love the most? Did we miss any big ones? Let us know your thoughts in the comments section below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching.
I'm not surprised that there was no definitive answer because, it's not like Britain wrote a letter and said, we like them best.
This is who we love.
Put this in a vault and don't open it until 2024 when Natasha and Debbie do an episode on it. That was never going to happen.
No.
So it is up for debate. Absolutely. You let us know in the comments what your thoughts are. We're going to hear I think that we'll hear India and Canada the most. I think that.
Probably.
I don't know.
I couldn't choose. I wasn't there. I wasn't involved. So I
you weren't alive.
I couldn't comment on it. So
no. And again, it's just what are you looking at the factor? And are you looking at troops? Are you looking at money? You're looking at time? Again, I don't know. It's an interesting question. Does it deserve an answer? I don't know. But it is an interesting question.
It is definitely that. Please let us know your thoughts in the comments. We'd love to hear from you.
And smash that like if you guys did enjoy this video and learned something from this video for sure. And consider subscribing to the channel. My only thoughts on it would be to say this. Again, I've already said it.
You have.
You know, everyone deserves the credit. And like I said before, you know, Australia and New Zealand specifically don't get enough credit, you know, because they're
sure
smaller places, right? But they still gave a lot. And to be feeling betrayed by Australia going back, to
protect their own,
rubs me the wrong way. I don't like that.
It does.
Again, it's taking into consideration, you know, you got to go home and take care of the homeland. You can't just ditch out and then, you know, but the smaller countries involved in World War II really did so much more than we usually look at and think of. And that's what I was hoping would be a little bit in this video. And I'm thankful to hear some of that was here.
Yeah, because a lot of times in history, you know, you learn about the big things, the big events, the bigger players and anything. But
which is really, what you and I have learned the most.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But it, like you said before, it takes all the players to make it work.
Yeah. So. And geez, I didn't know that about India. How many people, you know, and
I didn't either, honestly.
Was it 13 or 15 Victoria Cross?
15% of all
15%, that's
percent.
Right. Yeah, and wow.
I know, that's incredible.
Did you know that? Again, if anyone's watching that is active military or veteran, thank you for your service. We'll always say that, and we mean it. It's not just words. There's love behind this, and you should know that by now.
Definitely is.
And if not, we love you. We love all of you for watching. And again, thank you so much for watching this episode, and let us know what you may have learned. Anything they left out, which we know they probably did, maybe some numbers or something, we'd love to hear your guys' your thoughts on things and some of your expertise.
Absolutely.
Because it was a shorter video. So again, thank you so much for watching. All love to all of our allied countries, military, and I hope you feel it. We'll see you on the next episode. Until then, please love, like, jazz.
Be as strong as Tyson.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.